This is the High School Football America podcast for April 28th, 2020. I'm Jeff Fisher. The High School Football America podcast is brought to you by GameStrat, America's premier sideline instant replay system with outstanding reliability and great customer service, plus different plans priced right for every coach's budget. To get a demo, go to GameStrat.com or click on the GameStrat banner ad located on every page of HighSchoolFootballAmerica.com. Heading to Southern California. I don't want to call this guy a dinosaur, but he's one of the original guys on the show back in the day. Yeah, see, I got you. You weren't expecting that, Chris. Chris Fore is on the line. Met him, I think it was 2011, Chris, when you wrote your book. And obviously, Coach Fore was already out there, coachfore.com. And then you got 8lacesconsulting.org. And then when we moved to Southern California, you were the first, one of the first to welcome us to SoCal. So, Chris, welcome to the show. We're going to talk about a lot of things here today, but yeah, you're a dinosaur. Face it, I'm 59, so I don't even know what that makes me.
Yeah, hey, now I'm in my early 40s. I can't remember if it's 43 or 44, somewhere around there, Jeff.
Well, I don't know either, and I think I misspoke too. It's coachfore.org. But anyway, it's good to have you here. I'm glad that everybody in your family is staying safe and staying healthy. And I thought this would be a good time on the podcast today to kind of, take, like everybody's doing, right? You're kind of reflecting, what am I doing good? What am I doing bad? What can I do better? All that sort of thing. And let's kind of go to what you really trained me on. I remember having lunch with you down there in Laguna Beach one time and talking about, resumes and how you were kind of evolving things and teaching coaches that, there's a way to write a resume. And I was just curious, as far as that's concerned right now, what's the activity like? And if a coach is listening to this right now, what should they be doing? Because there is a little bit of downtime I've heard about. So give them a little skinny on what they should really be doing to get themselves prepared for the next level, whenever that may be, whether it's a year from now or 2 years from now or right now.
Yeah, that's a great question, Jeff. A lot of teachers I know do have a little extra free time right now. A lot of folks in the coaching world are teachers, and they're unfortunately sitting at home. And although a lot of them are working on their distance education, you've made a great point. This is a good time. You have a little extra downtime, to get your resume, cover letter, portfolio, get all those things up to date, and to be able to run for that new job when this is all said and done. I really hope there's not significant cuts out there in the field of education, but I know in California here, we've heard those cuts may be coming. So unfortunately, some guys might be looking for a new position sooner than they want to, but even if you're not, to be in place once this 2020 season is over, if you're somebody who has been kind of itching or thinking about that next move, this is a great time to get that resume and portfolio, up to speed, since you have a little extra time.
What's the biggest change? Like I said, when we first met back in whenever it was 10 or 11, and you started doing what you were doing with the resumes, and then people, your social media platform got a little bit bigger. What are some of the big questions, changes and questions that you get these days versus about a decade ago?
Oh boy, yeah, it was 2011, Jeff, and I reached out to you. I was trying to market my book about high school football championship programs, and man, you were so supportive and always have been of high school football. So I really appreciate that, and their coaches. So I appreciate that. But the biggest change, holy smokes, that's a really good question. I would say, one is just how digital everything has gotten nowadays, as opposed to when I first got into this, this consulting business with resumes. Now you've got guys who are making full-blown websites, to market themselves. That's something I did in 2010 myself, but back then you didn't have, many guys at all doing that. Now you've got, guys creating some dynamite-looking marketing tools I think we didn't have 10 years ago. I mean, there's some really cool, ways to make graphics and stuff now just on your phone. You don't even have to have very good credentials or programs or experience to know how to make some of that really good looking stuff that's out there. So I'd say that's probably been the biggest change last decade here.
Yeah. Chris Fore on the line, a good friend of ours. You can go to his websites, coachfore.org and 8laces.org. Just great, so much great information there. And I guess, as I mentioned a little bit before, as your social media platform kind of burgeoned, I mean, you've got some great followers. You get involved in a lot of topics. And sometimes I go, oh boy, I wish I could say what Chris just said. But tell me a little bit about your philosophy on social media and what coaches should do. Because let's face it, schools out there, schools that are looking to hire these guys, they're watching that. So where are the lines? What are some of the guidelines you put up for yourself and that coaches should also be thinking about before they hit that tweet button?
Yeah, I think that is important. It is very important to know, what you're representing when you do tweet something. I have been a person, who has an opinion on things, and I believe when I send out my philosophy, my messages, my thoughts and beliefs on something, I have a strong belief about it, and I really believe it's not going to hurt, my employer or my family, myself personally. So there's been times I've, tweeted something, an opinion that I had a strong opinion on something, and then decided not to tweet it out. So yeah, there's those times, but I definitely see some stuff out there and cringe a little bit, but I think you just, like I said, is this going to hurt my employer, if I express this opinion? Because whether or not, what it doesn't matter what you believe, you might have the right to tweet something or to say something online or in a public forum, but at the end of the day, your employer is probably going to win that battle if they don't like it. And what's interesting, Jeff, is if people don't like you, they will find a way to twist and turn something you might tweet to use against you. That's happened to me in the past. I've said some very innocuous something that I was doing during the day that, just to say, hey, I'm doing this. And it turned out into, Mr. Fore is this or that. So it's unbelievable what people will do, what they'll twist and turn your thoughts and your sentences into to fit their own agenda. So that's where you got to be careful not to give the haters, so to speak, any kind of ammunition. It's kind of been well known in the Twitter world that there's a gal who, has been opposed to youth football for a long, long time. And I tweeted something last summer about her lawsuit against Pop Warner, and, she took that to an assistant superintendent in my district here,
Mm-hmm.
So it is unbelievable what people will do to use against you if they don't like you. So that's where you got to be careful.
Yeah, especially battling the sport that we all love. Chris Fore on the line. You just, again, check out his stuff, coachfore.org and 8laces.org as well. And you read my mind because I was going to make a couple of twists and turn here. So I'll kind of move the question up a little bit. You mentioned the battle you guys had there in California, and it's not just a battle in California, right? It's all across this country, people wanting to take down youth football. You won, but the battle will rage, right? But here's my question. What did you learn about yourself through that? Because, and he's not going to brag, folks, but I'm going to tell you, Chris did a whole lot on his own time to make this a victory. And I was just curious, what did you learn about yourself through that? It's not really about the cause itself, but I'm talking about you. What did you learn about yourself?
Gosh, you're asking some good ones today, Jeff.
Okay. Well, that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't like to brag. I try to be a humble dude. I would say one thing I learned, I had a coach when that whole thing hit where legislatures wanted to ban youth tackle football here in California. I got a direct message that day from a head high school coach here who's also been very plugged in at the youth level for a decade. And he said, Coach, we need your help right now. You've got to start mobilizing some high school guys for this fight. And I had no idea that, this proposed legislation was even out there. We got on the phone that afternoon, and, that phone call literally sprung us into action. And I had no idea that I would be able to, put together a group of guys who really, I kind of steered the ship and tried to get a bunch of people on it in the right way. And then said, okay, I have no idea what I'm doing with youth football. You youth football guys got to take this. And, from that, the California Youth Football Alliance was born, and I've developed some friendships with three guys specifically who really took that bull by the horns. But I mean, I learned that I think each of us has a role to play. And my role in that, like I said, just get the ship going in the right direction, get it sailing, and get a lot of people around you who know what they're doing. And that's kind of always been my philosophy in leadership. If you're the smartest guy in the room, you're in the wrong room, and I just think it kind of further develops my philosophy in regards to, how to get stuff done. So I think that's maybe something I guess what I learned there was I just didn't understand the influence that I really had, when this guy who's coached at a top program in Southern California is reaching out to me. I'm like, who am I to help start this thing? But at the end of the day, I think he was onto something. So it went well.
Well, kudos to you for taking the bull by the horns, and I did have that in my list of questions I wanted to ask you because I do know, and it's not like you did it for publicity or whatnot. I just wanted to make sure that people knew that you did that, and then that kind of dovetails into, the battle is not over. It will continue to rage. I talk about it with coaches, all the time, especially offline where you can be a little bit more frank about things, but, I'm between you and I feel this way. I'm disgusted by some of these things that are going on. There is more good that comes out of football at all levels than there is bad. And, we're not putting our head in the sand. There are things that can be improved, and football's never been safer and all that. But, where do you see this going? I mean, because those people out there that want to see no football are not going to go away. So what's kind of the message to the fraternity out there and the fans and what they can do maybe to make sure that our voice is just as loud as theirs?
Yeah, great point. A lot of times it's the small vocal minority who gets heard the loudest, unfortunately, because the good people don't speak up. So you're right. I'd say first and foremost, Jeff, it's, the coaches have got to do a great job making sure to keep this game moving in a very safe direction. Coaches, one of the things I do on the side is I serve as an expert witness in court cases, and I want to be able to defend coaches in school districts. But Jeff, there's been, 5 or 6 cases I've worked on where I had to have a voice against the coaches or the district simply because of the harm that these coaches put kids. I mean, they changed and ruined the life of a kid because of his poor decisions. For pardon my frankness there.
Yeah, that's
but
fine.
When coaches put their own pride and arrogance, their own agenda, we got to win this game ahead of the health and welfare of student athletes, that fires me up. And so first and foremost, we've got to be aware of our policies and procedures and keep making the game more safe than it's ever been. I mean, I wrote an article 2 months ago, maybe, 37 ways we've made the sport more safe in the last decade. And that's kudos to coaches and administrators all across America. But as coaches, we've got to keep safety at the forefront of our practice plans and of our temperament and of our professional growth. That's got to happen first and foremost to keep this sport moving in the right way. And then second, I would say for the fans and the student athletes and, anybody else listening, it's getting on board. It's having a voice of how great football is for your son or daughter, and using that voice to express your satisfaction with the coaches and the safety of the game when it's needed. That's one of the things we found here in California, Jeff, fighting this bill was, we had different pockets up and down this very large state where they thought, oh, there's no way they'll vote to get rid of youth football. And, we had some people that were silent, and, we're lucky this time that they pulled the bill, but, next time we might not be so lucky. So people just have got to jump on that boat, when it starts leaving to support this, this great sport, because you're right. It's the fight. I don't think the fight's ever going to go away. I think just like everything in life, a lot of things are cyclical in athletics. And, right now we're in that cycle where people are going to want to try to ban the sport, and hopefully football outlasts that, and, it'll go away at some point, but at some point it'll come back again. So those would be my two talking points there, Jeff, on that.
Yeah, no, I think it's good. And by the way, that article you wrote was great. We did post it up on highschoolfootballamerica.com, so you guys can Google it. We're talking to Chris Fore, coachfore.org, his resume consulting business. You can go to 8laces.org. And, basically what you were saying there is, we got to come together, right? And the coaching profession has always been tight, right? There's no doubt about it. Everybody reconstitutes various schemes and all that stuff, or whatever the word is you want to use today, borrow, steal, whatever you want. But, I what I've really liked about what's going on during the COVID, the pandemic we're going through, is watching coaches online through Zoom and that sharing. There seems to be a fraternity there that's always been tight, but it seems to be getting tighter because of what's going through with the various clinics we're seeing. What's your take on all these Zoom clinics that, it's short of the one that I tried to do with all you coaches and got Zoom bombed, but aside from that, what's your thought on the clinics?
Oh man, it's been awesome to see. There's Coach G. I can't even pronounce his last name. Justin, I think it's Grandutti, who's a high school coach. He's done more Fore coaches than anybody in America during this time. I think he's been holding 5, 6, 7, 8 clinics a day for weeks and weeks now. It's so impressive. It's awesome. It's great to see. I mean, he's built a Google Drive now that rivals some of these major clinic companies. So no, it's really, really neat to see coaches just, a lot of these guys who think, man, I might not have anything, anybody else wants to see, but they'll get on there, hold a webinar and have 70 or 80 coaches from all over the country on there. So it's been really neat. It's been encouraging. I think kind of a shot in the arm, that coaches need at just the right time to kind of get through this idea of sitting around and waiting out this virus and until politicians open things up. It's been really, really cool to see. Yeah. Absolutely.
And for those of you who don't know, Chris has been a coach at many levels, high school, JUCO there for a little bit, and then you went into athletic administration, and now you've I don't know if it's the dark side, you're in the administration now, right? But but one of the questions I've been having fun with the coaches is, as we try not to dive too deeply into the coronavirus as far as what it all means, but I like this one. I want your take on it because I think you might have a good one on it. And here's the question. So at some point we're coming out of this, right? And you're going to have a bunch of kids in front of you at some point as a coach. And you've got to, and you're going to have kids at all levels, right? You're going to have those kids that are like, let's go, man. Hey, there's meat in front of us. We've been waiting to get out of the cage. And then you're going to have some other kids at the other end of the spectrum that maybe, I don't know, man. I've been watching the news, and the news is giving me negative. Is it a good thing to go and do a tackle drill with it? That sort of thing. And I'm just curious what you would say, having had so many hats in your career, in that very first meeting to kids. Not that you're going to make it, COVID-19 front and center over football, but you should probably have that conversation. I'm just curious what you would think you might say to kids that are in front of you that may not be on the side of, boy, is this the right thing right now?
Yeah, I would say, you just have to let them know that their safety, like always, hopefully you're running a program, you have a reputation with your kids that their safety is of utmost importance, and follow the guidelines on whatever the guidelines are when we return to school. And who knows at this point, what those are going to be, but just do your best to follow those guidelines even within our program. We might see some simple things like a water break, changing for a long time now. Does every kid have their own individual bottle now? Yep. Instead of a water horse type of thing out there. So there may be some of those precautions coaches have to think of that we haven't had to think of before, and just, so I would say just let the kids know that no matter where they are on that spectrum, you respect where they are, and their safety and well-being is going to be far above anything else, within the program. And again, hopefully, when you say those things, they'll respect it,
Yeah, and know that you're the leader, and they can come to him and discuss those sort of things. Yeah, I was talking when Jesse Negro from St. John Bosco was on the podcast the other night. We were talking about it, what happens now during a timeout, right? The managers run out onto the field with the water bottles. are we going out there with 11 now? And then are we, I mean,
Yeah.
it's really going to be odd to see or it's going to look odd. It's going to be different. There's no doubt about that. Chris Fore on the line. And then, one of the other questions that I think, you're very well suited to talk about here is being the football coach that you are. You're still in that capacity. I know you may not be doing it physically, but what happens, because there's a lot of conversation, especially in the warm weather states, whether it's California, here in Georgia, Florida, where they're saying, well, if we have to go to January, football's big enough to be pushed, right? Football is the big sport in high school. How would you feel about that as an administrator, where you may have a basketball coach or a baseball coach losing an athlete because things have been changed to a different time period, and football is kind of the 800-pound gorilla? Got a take on that one?
Yeah, no, I don't think I've seen some coaches tweeting about that. Some of those ideas. I don't think that's fair. I don't think it's the right thing to do to move the football season to another sport. I mean, like I said, I'm a football guy. Did it for 18 years, but I don't think as not even when I was an athletic director, head football coach at one time, I would have told you the same thing. I just don't think that's fair to the other coaches, the other kids on your campus, to make that move. I don't think it lines up with anything the right way. If we're education-based athletics, I don't think that's something we should entertain, to be honest with you.
Well, and then, I'm going to go to the last question, because you do have an opinion that you don't mind putting out there. So if you had to, roll some dice right now or put a bet down, not that I'm encouraging gambling or anything, but are we going to have a 2020 high school football season?
I think so. I mean, I think we will. I don't know. Here in California, I don't know if we'll ever have football again in this state. with our governor, I don't know. It sounds like he wants to just bottle us all up forever. But no, all kidding aside, Jeff, I think we'll see. I definitely think we'll have football this year. I mean, that's the thing. I've been telling some coaches and some kids around here, who are kind of freaking out about everything. And I mean, so much of this whole virus and what I call virus management, if you think about where we were a month ago to where we are today, so much changes, that we're learning through medical, the medical community, learning through tracking this virus and all of that. You think about, this is only May or April 28th, we're recording this. I mean, you think about another month from now, everything else we'll know. And hopefully, by June 1, if people are listening to this, we've got a good solid plan, to move athletics forward.
Yeah, and you know what? I was going to let you go on that one, but something came to my mind as you were saying what you just said. And folks, for those of you who haven't heard Chris on the show, and we did this, I think, the very first one when we introduced you, your life has not been easy. When you were in high school, you were in a horrific car crash. You lost your friend who passed away, and your life was not doing too well at that point either. And it makes me, and I'm not even sure if I'm going to phrase the question right, but you've seen some bad stuff. Now, I personally feel the media has overblown this to a certain extent, and I'll just put that out there. What you had, I think, was worse. And I just wonder if there's an anecdote within your life story going back to that time when you may have been examining parts of your life that no teenagers should have been examining. Is there any anecdotes in there that you can correlate to what we're going through now to show, like you said, we are going to come out of this, there is going to be a better day, there is going to be football, there is going to be blah, 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 blah?
Yeah, I mean, I would just say life is very precious, and you're right. I was, when all my buddies were out all of July that year, when I was going into my junior year, my friends are all out playing football, getting ready, and I'm sitting in a hospital bed, and our other friend is, in a casket. I mean, you definitely reevaluate, your life at that time, and you really take an inventory of how precious stuff is, and how precious life is, and family, and everything you do. So, Jeff, it is weird. I think it's overblown too, and I don't want to make light of this, but I don't know one person. I don't know one person, I don't have a friend or a family member who has suffered at all from this virus, but I do know two guys, one athletic director I know and one football coach I know, who both in the last 2 weeks, they fell off a ladder One of them fell off a ladder, broke his neck. One of them fell off a ladder, then had a heart attack leading to surgery. And it's like, I mean, to me, that kind of hit me yesterday. Like, it's just kind of part of life, you know, two guys who should be at work, right? They're not because of this virus. So they're doing honey-do lists around their own house. And then both of them have horrific accidents falling off a ladder, you know. And it's like, gosh, life is just precious. And there are accidents and bad things waiting right around the corner for all of us, you know, at some point. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't know if that answers.
Yeah, no, it does. It just made me think because, you know, I feel the same way when I had my stroke. I'm coming up on 7 years ago. It's changed me in a good way, you know, and that's not to say that I don't have some bad days and all that, but shit, it's, you know, because it is a podcast, I can say shit. There's another thing out there that might be worse than all that, and I just appreciate you taking the time here to speak honestly, because I think some of these things are going to be very, very helpful. I mean, you know, I think it's your honesty that led to, you know, getting that bill defeated and keeps youth football, you know, up there in California for all the kids to enjoy and all that. So I just, you know, appreciate your friendship. Love what you do for the sport on many different levels, and just keep safe and healthy. And I guess someone once said this much smarter than I. This too shall pass. So with that being said, you know, just thanks for joining us today. A lot of good nuggets in there, folks, and you be safe out there, and we'll talk soon.
Thanks, Jeff. Great talking with you.
Don't forget to follow High School Football America on all of our social media platforms. Twitter's handle is HSFB America. On Facebook at facebook.com/High School Football America. And our handles on Pinterest and LinkedIn and Instagram, also High School Football America. The High School Football America podcast is brought to you by GameStrat, America's premier sideline instant replay system with outstanding reliability and awesome customer service with different plans priced right for every coach's budget. To get a demo, go to GameStrat.com or click on the GameStrat fan ad on every page of HighSchoolFootballAmerica.com. I'm Jeff Fisher, and you've been listening to the High School Football America podcast.